Hello and welcome to the GOAT. Following on from yesterday's game against Sunderland, for anyone else who was there, and I dare say for those watching on the TV as well, another high blood pressure inducing game. One of those where we were so comfortable, but we never do it the easy way. I thought we started superbly. We couldn't have done it much better with the early goal. A lovely move, Cash McGinn. Watkins finishing off again. He's in the right place, right time. He's he's really shown some form since being dropped from the England squad. That's done us a massive favour because he's really got people to sit up and take notice again. I think he's got 6 now in the last 5. And obviously yesterday with an assist too. And it was a bit strange I thought personally, because with such a good start, we didn't really control the game. I thought Sunderland had a lot of the ball. It wasn't a great shock when they equalised. It was, you felt something might be coming in that direction. I have to say it was a cracking goal. I mean, a few people were complaining about this and that, but when you're going to curl it in from that angle, unfortunately our angle, as soon as he'd hit it, I said it's in, and we have the perfect sort of view of that from where we are, and I mean, sometimes you just got to say, look, that was a cracking goal. We never really got to grips. We had a couple of sort of spells in the first half, but I thought Sunderland were more than good value to at least be level. They're a better side than I was giving them credit for. I thought they might be a bit slow and just physical and not much else, but they clearly had pace. When they wanted to, they could build up as well. Have to remain a bit ignorant here and say I don't really know a lot about too many of their players, but they've clearly got a good team ethic there. The managers, formed quite a good team unit, I think, and they were more than worthy of being level at half time. But obviously, then we've got the second goal. As well, there's a lot said about Rodgers, and he did well in this, and he did play well, much better, I thought, during the game as well. But I thought Matson's made the run and literally put the cross on Ollie's head. So you've gone in 2-1 up. The second half can't start any better. The move for the goal was superb. It was a real quality team goal. John McGinn, absolutely outstanding, nicking the ball away. Ross Barkley, thought Ross did well. He obviously got knackered later on, but I thought he did okay. Ollie's touch, Morgan Rodgers' finish, and from that point you think, we're 3-1 up, we're playing well. Not that you can coast, but we're in such a good position. We couldn't have, everyone would have took being 3-1 up, a few minutes into the second half. And we've had chances again. I think, Ollie set one up for John McGinn. It didn't quite work out. Then he had another one where he tried to take it more himself. I think he fancied having a go. And then came those, not the first subs, the second subs where McGinn and Watkins go off. And I have to say, for all the criticism, my personal thought at the time was that they were good subs. Watkins was starting to look leggy. I know he wanted that hat trick, but at the end of the day, you want to, where you can, give him a rest for 10, 15 minutes, just take him out the firing line. He's done his bit, done his job. John McGinn was knackered. He'd put everything in. I think he's almost becoming, I know he's coming back from injury, but he's almost become one of those players you can give 70, 75 minutes. You can run himself into the ground and then replace him. But I thought the subs personally were spot on. Obviously Tammy coming on for Ollie Watkins, and Sancho would just give us some width where John McGinn was, might have a chance to run at a couple of defenders. Now, I'm not his biggest fan, I wouldn't deny. I've been watching him all season. I'm lucky enough to say that I was there in person when he scored his one and only goal. Away at Fenerbahce. It's been clear from early on and then throughout the season that the bloke is absolutely petrified of physical contact. He wants nothing to do with defenders tackling him or a duel with a defender to hold a ball up. He's shown, for the sort of money that we are paying him, in terms of his actual wage, he's shown precious little for us. He's had odd spells of 1 or 2 games. And what he did for me, what he did yesterday, isn't a new thing. He's been jumping out of tackles and avoided contact all season. That's a given. And then to, the 3-2 goal. I mean, yeah, I've seen people saying, well, Martinez should have hit it long, Cash should have hit it long, but the ball from Cash to Sancho, there's nothing wrong with if he just controls that. Now look, I think part of the issue is a lot of people getting annoyed at others who are sort of ragging on Sancho, but it's more to do with the fact that it's not just that players make mistakes, because everyone out there has. It's more the fact that he is just so unwilling to get stuck in. And I said yesterday, those players have put in everything. They've been sweating blood to get into that position. And he comes on and he just, even with a bad first touch, he's just giving it up. Foul the player, do something, get shoulder to shoulder with him, just, put him off his stride, something, so it's 3-2, and we're saying, look, surely we've still got enough about us to see this out. They haven't been much of a threat even at 3-2. And before we know it, he's run into a cul-de-sac, and again we've just been caught on the hop. Now, yeah, you can't blame him entirely. Again, Mings and Conts are just completely parted. Unfortunate with Emmy, he slipped a little bit as well. So when it's come to the sort of final shot, he probably hasn't reacted and been in the exact position he wanted to be in. But it's all come from Sancho just running down a blind alley and losing the ball. That's the sort of bare facts of it. And all of a sudden it's 3-3. I mean, can you fucking believe it? Again, nothing against Sunderland. Thought they were a really decent team. They got superb fans. They always have. But we were 3-1 up with like 5 minutes to go and just cruising the game out, doing a really nice job of just seeing the game out. And within a couple of minutes, it's 3-3, and you're thinking, holy fuck, like, where has this come from? And then Sancho's been dispossessed again. And when that Diarra got through, I almost couldn't watch because it just seemed inevitable. He was getting closer and closer. And you're just waiting for him to smash it in. So when he doesn't, and obviously Emmy manages to get up to the attempted sort of chip over him. I didn't even notice till afterwards, obviously watching it, that he could have just rolled it to his side, and there was a player there who was just going to roll it in and score, an open goal. And then we've sort of come back out with the ball. But, like a few people said, I think at 4-3 down, I don't even know what I'd have done. I don't leave games early. I think I've done it once when we were 6-0 down to Man City in injury time. I did it then. And then I missed Anwar Al-Ghazi scored for us and make it 6-1. But yeah, as a rule. But I think if we'd have gone 4-3 down yesterday from being 3-1 up with 5 minutes to go, I don't think my fucking head could have taken that. And yeah, we've come back up. It was noticeable that when the ball was wide and it was sort of getting played around between Dean and Tielemans and whatever, that Sancho was in space, but they didn't give it to him. And yeah, Luca Dean's more than capable of putting in a good cross. He's a quality player. He's a talented player when it comes to putting in balls. That's why I get frustrated sometimes when he doesn't, because he's absolutely got the fucking quality to do it. Yeah, and Tammy's finished it off, and the place has gone wild, and a lot of people who'd gone missed it. And we've won the game. It felt like we've won it twice. At 3-1, we felt like we'd won the game, and then all of a sudden we hadn't. And yeah, the only negative is that you've got luxury players like Bailey and Sancho who you almost at times cannot afford to have on, because they're not going to offer you anything defensively. They're not going to put their bodies in the way, their bodies on the line like the rest of them have for the entire game. It happened a little bit when Bailey came on in Bologna and he didn't bother to try and tackle Rowe, and Rowe obviously ran on and scored and made it 2-1. you know, you just cannot. We cannot afford a luxury player who isn't producing sort of numbers at the other end. With Bailey, obviously, we looked to get rid of him anyway. So the fact he was back, you can't really say too much about. But with Sancho, that's a decision to bring him in for the whole season, and certainly one goal and just a few assists. For the money and the amount of games he's played is just not good enough. If he'd come up with sort of, I don't know, 5 or 6 goals and 6 or 7 assists, 8 assists, something like that, I don't know. You maybe have to accept that, defensively and physically, he's not going to get involved. But with the sort of numbers he's produced, he's an absolute luxury we cannot afford. And personally, I think it would be absolutely mental to look at signing him in the summer. I really hope we don't go down that route. You've only got to watch some of the football in France, especially Germany. There's so much good talent out there. I really hope we don't go down that road with Jadon Sancho. I'm sure he's a nice lad. I'm sure he gets on with the players and whatever else. And I'm glad to see Unai Emery come out and defend him, as you'd expect a manager to. He's not going to chuck him under the bus after that. But, he'd have been fuming. He looked like he was angry walking off. When he normally sort of looks at the fans, gives them a clap, a bit of a smile or whatever. I think to have even been in that position from 3-1 would have really angered him. And it's a reminder that it's never over. I must admit, at 3-1, I thought it was comfortable, and I really didn't see anything like that happening at all. But what an amazing game! If you really were in neutral at that game, I've seen some from the Sunderland fans' point of view as well. I mean, it was an incredible game to go to 3-3 from nowhere, and for them to have an absolute gilt-edged chance to win it, and then lose it within a minute was staggeringly good, and sort of goes against the grain of what a lot of Premier League games have been this season, all across the league, where they've been so static and boring and robotic. It was incredible, not good for the blood pressure like a lot of others. I mean, it probably took me like half an hour, 45 minutes to start calming down. It was very reminiscent of the Buendia goal against Arsenal. I still think for absolute elation, that was probably just ahead of what happened yesterday. But yeah, yesterday would have been really, really close. And yeah, fair play to Tammy. I'm really glad he's got that goal as well. He's got on with it, considering he's barely getting any minutes at all in games. He was interviewed by somebody afterwards, and he said he's fine and he loves it, and I'm sure he wants to play more. Of course he does. But for him to be able to come on and contribute and score like we know he can, I think that's exactly what we need from him, exactly what he needs from the squad. So yeah, take nothing for granted. Obviously, I'd like to think there'll be a leadership group, there'll be players there that have to take Sancho aside and say, look, I don't know. I don't know what they can say to him about, if you lose the ball, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, because he just hasn't done it all season, and I can't see he's just suddenly going to start being a battler and a fighter and this sort of thing. The drop down from when McGinn goes off to when he comes on is just immense. But I thought, yeah, Ollie would probably get man of the match, I would have thought, for me, for 2 goals and an assist. John McGinn was absolutely outstanding again. Rodgers was so much better. Thought Amadou Onana, again, much, much better. Things seem to tick when he's on form. It looks a lot better. And he's starting to come into the sort of form I'd expect from him, because he's had some bad patches, but he was definitely much more on it yesterday for me. So, yeah, an absolutely massive 3 points with Chelsea losing. It's starting to look like another win and a defeat for the sort of teams behind us. I mean, Chelsea are in terrible form anyway, so I can't see they're just going to chuck 5 wins out from nowhere. So yeah, another win. I mean, before these 2 games, I thought 4 points from Sunderland, Fulham would be a decent return, and I'll stand by that. I think we can beat Fulham, but a point away wouldn't be the worst result in the world. And it's up to those teams to catch us up. And if we're just popping points in the bag, they're not going to do it. So I'm really happy where we are. It's impossible not to be seriously fucking excited about the position we're in. Obviously, the Fulham game coming up next weekend. Then it's Forest and a Spurs sandwich, and Forest again. It's immensely exciting. It really, really is. My head's without doubt in the Europa League because just the chance of seeing us win a trophy. The last time I saw that was 1996. But yeah, to potentially win it in Europe, a European competition in Istanbul. Look, Forest is no given. Of course, it isn't. I think everybody would have preferred to have gone to Porto, quite frankly. But you're playing a team in Porto that are challenging for the Portuguese title, or a team like Forest who've been struggling most of the season. And even yesterday, they said they won 4-1, but Gibbs White's got them out of that game almost single-handed. They're not playing very well. They didn't play very well in the second leg against Porto. And over 2 games, I'm sure we've got enough about us. I just have a feeling we'd be able to do it in the first leg as well. I think we'll be able to play a bit like at Bologna and sort of soak up anything they're going to throw at us. And I'm sure we're good for a goal or 2. Absolutely sure of it. And then sort of finishing off at Villa Park. But obviously, don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Like a lot of people, I definitely don't want to be the team that gives Spurs any points. I think the majority of the country would be massively behind West Ham tonight to open up a gap. There's nothing against Crystal Palace, but I really hope West Ham win, open up a gap. Spurs were one of those scabby 6 fucking clubs who decided they were better than everyone else, were going to play in their own little league and leave the other 14 teams behind. So fuck them. I really, really hope they go down. They're probably one of the worst sets of fans we go to as an away game as well. Whether it's a North London thing, I don't know. But yeah, I'll be delighted. Everybody laughed their heads off when we went down in 2015-16. So I'll be not worrying in the slightest about laughing at Spurs. So yeah, I really hope we're not the team that gives them anything. I've seen a few people already saying, Spurs have got quite an easy run in, and the fact that they're in between the 2 Forest games for us means that maybe we won't be as at it as people think. But for anyone who's watched Unai Emery and watched his teams, it's not the case. We've handled the Thursday Sunday routine really, really well as I've seen it. Quite frankly, it's been a pleasure to watch, and I'm more than back us. I'm sure we can either finish level or sneak a little lead away at Forest, and then 2 home games. I'm positive we can beat Spurs. I think Spurs are absolutely shite anyway, but I think we can beat Spurs. I'm really looking forward to that number 6. Look, what's his name? Paulinho. Never wish injury on players, but after what he did to Kamara, he can go fuck himself. So, I'd love to stick a nail in the relegation coffin there. But for me, it's all on that second leg, May the 7th, Forest at home. That could be an amazing night. It could be an amazing night, atmosphere-wise. I hope we do it in terms of we win it in 90 minutes and it's done. I don't want it going to extra time. And I definitely don't want it to go to penalties. That would probably be unbearable and might mean I might not make the final. The old blood pressure goes too high. Penalties at the whole turn, imagine that. Wow. So yeah, I'm sure we got enough about them about ourselves to do that in 2 legs and in 90 minutes at Villa Park. I really do. So look, it's a really fucking exciting time coming up. It's the business end, obviously, of the season now. But for us to be in the situation we're in, on 2 fronts, we've hit form at the right time. We've come through a real dodgy patch where it's starting to look like without Tielemans and McGinn that we just couldn't do it. We weren't playing well, we weren't getting results, and to come out of that with an informed striker, with a midfield that's ticking again. We might have 1 or 2 issues defensively. I still think Torres and Konsa are the best partnership we can put out there. and certainly Lindelof as a backup. There's nothing against Tyrone Mings. Tyrone's obviously been here since the sort of second half of the season of the Championship days. He's been immense for us. But our best pairing out there for me would be Konsa and Torres, and Lindelof backing it up because he's a similar player and he can bring the ball out. But yeah, it's really seriously fucking exciting times, and I just hope there's a lot of players who are a couple of games away from being proper legends. I've seen a few saying Ollie already is for the amount of goals he scored, and I think that's a fair argument. A lot of people, because of the way John McGinn has been over the last, 6-7 years, whatever. A lot of people saying he already is, and that's pretty difficult to argue against as well. But a trophy, him standing there with the trophy on that pitch at Besiktas, that would, for me, that would cement it. And him and Unai and all the players involved would be legends, regardless of then who went in the summer or whatever. If they were to lift that trophy, they would be absolute fucking legends. So there's a thought. I'm going to leave you with that. Think about that one. Wow. It's exciting times. Up the Villa. Woke up this morning feeling fine. There's something special on my